Welcome to the realm of magic and mystery, classic horror and sci-fi. You are now entering the House of the Unusual podcast with your hosts, Eddie and Joe. Welcome all you cool ghouls and friendly fiends to the House of the Unusual podcast. I'm your host, Joe Pavlansky. With me, as always, are my good buddies, Eddie Guevara, Chuck and Cheri Caputo. And today we have on our good buddy, Jason, the Karate Man, Blakey. What's up, everyone?
Hey.
Hi.
Hello, guys.
All right. So we have a lot of people on today. This is going to be a great conversation, man. We got 5 of us going today, and it is the new year. We're recording this on the 17th, so we are a little over 2 weeks into the new year. How's everyone's new year holding up so far? Chuck and Cheri, everything going well? A lot of shows?
Yeah, keeping busy. You know what? We've been doing a lot of stuff. We've been and our daughter-in-law's mother had a minor operation. She had a knee replacement, so Cheri's been cooking some food for her. We're going to bring some over again tomorrow. So so when we're not working, we're always doing something, right, Cheri?
That's right. Yep.
Got to be keeping busy. How's the shows going this year, Chuck? Are you pretty booked up so far?
Good, yeah. You know what? January was very busy. February is slowing down a little bit, which is good because I got a lot of stuff to do here, man. To do.
And we're getting ready to go away next week.
Yeah, we're going to go to Columbus to the Magi Fest, so that'll be kind of cool.
Oh, that sounds pretty cool. So, what is the Magi Fest?
Well, it's about 4 days long, and I think Lance Burton's going to be the MC for a lot of the magic shows out there. And so, yeah, you know what? It's just a really cool time of
magic, and more magic.
Yeah, it's like wow, magic, and so we're going to get a room out there. I think it's at the I can't remember the hotel. Yeah, it's a very nice one, and they got dealers rooms. You know, it's pretty much like the Monster Bash we went to, Joe, but it's all with, magic.
So, do they have people performing all day, or is it like lectures, or what's?
It's like a combination of everything. Yeah, all of the above: performers, lecturers, competitions, even. So it's actually kind of neat. You know what? And I'll bump into a lot of people that we know. I'm sure we were dating, Cheri and I, since 1990, 91.
Oh, wow.
92. Yeah, so that was quite a while ago.
So are you going there for just, relaxation and fun, or are you actually performing there?
No, I don't feel like you know what? I perform so much with these shows, Joe. I don't feel, I might bring a couple little close-up things to show them, like similar to the stuff I brought that I showed you, what, because there's a bunch of guys that sit around all night, like out in the lobby, doing tricks and so forth. So that'll be interesting.
That's funny because it's the same thing at Monster Bash at night. I think the last movie ends, depending on if they're on schedule, usually ends about 2:30, 3:30, somewhere around there. And, some people don't like to sit and watch the later movies. I do, but, starting around like midnight, 11 o'clock or midnight, people start, gravitating to the lobby area, and they sit around and they talk monster stuff or whatever, and usually sometimes I'm coming out of the movie room at 3:30, 4 o'clock, and they're still out there talking.
It's a Renaissance.
So
wow.
it seems like it's the same thing everywhere. So
yes, you know what? Cheri just looked it up, Joe. It's the Renaissance Hotel in
downtown
Columbus. Yeah, it's a really good one.
I stayed at a Renaissance. I think it was a Renaissance in Pittsburgh about, oh my gosh, almost 18 years ago or so, and it was beautiful. So I wonder if it's the same kind of company.
Yeah, they always have it pretty laid out there, and they have a restaurant inside there, pretty much like at Monster Bash and stuff. So you can eat and drink whenever you want. So that's cool. You don't have to worry about driving all over the place. It's all taken care of. So it'll be a lot of fun, I'm sure.
Just hope the weather is good because we have to drive over there.
Yeah, that's the only thing that could throw a curveball. I mean, so far it's been 50 degrees. I mean, who knows?
Yeah, really. Yeah, today's beautiful.
I know.
This is nice spring weather, but who knows?
Yeah, really. Yeah, then it'll snow this weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all right. Yeah. So, well, that's good. I'm glad your guys' New Year's going to be starting off well and everything. And I'm going to turn it over to Jason and see what's new with him. See if he's got any new karate or martial arts mags that he's added to his collection. And hopefully he'll talk about this one that he posted on the forum. I'm not even sure how you pronounce it.
Condo,
maybe. Yeah. So what's up, Jason?
Chuck and Cheri sound like they got way more interesting stuff going on than I do.
Oh,
I hardly leave
no.
the house anymore. Jeez.
Yeah, that's right. I'm the same way. I got all my stuff at the house, but yeah. So what's new with you? Have you gotten any new booklets or pamphlets or anything over the last couple of weeks?
I did manage to trace down a kung fu book that I've been looking for a while, and I don't know what happened. It's like the stars aligned, and I found a French translation of this kung fu manual that it was originally published in North America, and then not 2 days later on eBay, up pops the English version, mint copy, and so I didn't have to order the French version, but now I have both. And the U.S. is a nicer printing. They went 2-color print rather than 1 color like the French version.
Wow, cool.
But
There
yeah,
was a book. There was a book,
strange.
Jason, that I bought when I was in like 5th grade. That was probably 1975. It was actually from Johnson Smith, and it was to teach you how to, I don't know, fight with karate or something. It was a paperback book, but it was pretty neat. It had a glossy cover, if I'm not mistaken. It was black and white, but it had a little bit of red in it too somehow. Inside, it had the individual drawings and so forth. It was really cool, man. I wish I still had that thing. Does that particular one ring a bell to you? It was through Johnson Smith. I know I bought it through there.
Yeah, I haven't been buying the Johnson Smith ones, especially because I've been going for the ones that have had their own advertisements.
Oh, I see.
The big full pagers are the nice ones to get, but
yeah,
it's
yeah,
rare
boy,
to see glossy at all on these things because they're so cheaply produced.
Yeah, I think the cover was a glossy cover again, but it was like a heavy, glossy cardstock, if I remember right. I mean, this was 50 some years ago. I'm going by memory. But
Everything
yeah,
was shiny back then. Jeez.
Yeah, but you know what? But if I remember right, there was like gouging eyes out. And,
well, that
yeah,
would
it
have
was
been Count Dante's book was all about.
yeah, it was like
eyes
throat punches and everything. I said, "Holy smokes, I don't know about this."
You gotta love the throat punches.
Yeah, so I'm tossed out of school if I do something like this. But I did take Chinese Kempo, Jason, when I was maybe about 16, 17. You know what? I love martial arts.
Back in the rough days. Jeez.
Yeah, I took Chinese Kempo. I was up to almost a brown belt, and then I quit. And but I would like to get back into it. That was, and it keeps you in good exercise. You know what I mean? It was really neat.
Yeah, when COVID started, I kind of stopped going to the dojo for a few years, and you can see age catch up with you. So I can't stop now. I went back and got back into shape, and now I'm stuck.
Yeah, best thing to do, man. Yeah, if you let I'm 50 years old. I'm no.
Almost 59.
I'll be 59 next week. Yeah, I'm no spring chicken.
Cheri just had to throw that in there.
Yeah, she likes to toss that in.
It's his birthday next week. He's on the same day as our daughter-in-law, Cassie. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, next week, Cheri, make sure you remind us so that we could sing "Happy Birthday" on the podcast.
Yeah.
I think we sung it for you for yours, so we got to do it for Chuck.
Yeah,
that's right.
But I tell you what, Chuck, looking at this ad that Jason put online, and it, you want to get back into martial arts. This sounds like the one for you and anybody out there. I'm going to read a little bit about it, and then I'm going to have Jason explain a little bit about it, and then also the accompanying picture underneath, which is absolutely fantastic. But defend yourself and fear no man when you master Aikido, the combat system that can save your life and change it. Life is not a game. Aikido is not a sport. It is a deadly self-defense system using the best of karate, kung fu, judo, and aikido. It is a razor-sharp system of action response. It is the final answer to violence in the streets. Violence by the thief, by the thrill seeker, by the bully. Violence that can strike you down and touch the lives of those you love. Aikido has the answer to any hostile attack, whether by fist or foot, open hand or weapon. Aikido is the combat system that can save your life and change it for the better. That sounds awesome. I mean, I want to purchase a condo, study it, and walk the streets, hoping that somebody will want to test.
Sign me up.
So, Jason, I've seen, and I'm sure we've all seen a lot of these ads, but I've never seen one for a condo. Is this? Do you know anything about this one, or Eddie? Can you jump in and know anything about this system?
Well, Jason, go ahead first.
No, you go ahead. You ordered it.
Well, the system originally originated, believe it or not, in Fort Lee area. Like if you see really old ads for it, it's in Fort Lee, and it was quite around the same time as Cal Dante was running his ads around. There's several ads for the iCondo. I ordered the book, I think back in 1979, 1980, I think. But I recall it being a series of about 3 or 4 pamphlets. Now, when I mean pamphlets, I'm talking about little booklets, you know. I remember they were gray and dark front, but did I ever read them? No. Did I ever look at them? Not really.
It's kind of like me, really.
I figured that just owning the book, I had the power to master. Now, one thing I wanted to say, which is really kind of important here. Joe, I've noticed that you've talked a lot about martial arts, and you've been hiding behind the curtain there. Aren't you one of those masters that should tell us a little bit about those legendary martial arts?
I know nothing that Count Dante hasn't taught me. That's the only one.
I see nothing, right? I know nothing.
That's it. But I tell you what, Jason, this photo that you have accompanying the picture here on the website, this U.S. Army Special Forces only hand-to-hand fighting manual. It says Karate Taekwondo ST31-204. Now, this isn't an actual military manual. What is this manual?
Apparently, it was produced at Fort Bragg in around 1975 for their Taekwondo club. And I looked online. And I've tracked down a guy whose dad was actually a member of that club, and he identified the 2 people who were in the pictures in the book and things like that. So as far as an interesting book, it's interesting, but as far as iCondo, it's not iCondo, which made me a little sad.
It's not, and Jason had mentioned that, and the reason I'm saying that's definitely not iCondo, I was in Florida by my mom's house. There was an Army and Navy store there for years, and if you know Joe and Chuck, I'm sure you guys been to them. They always have like a corner where they sell manuals and books and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that book was selling there for like $7.99. They had it in a basket. I picked it up and looked at it. So iCondo, I think, would be more of a book that would, I remember it saying iCondo in the cover. It's kind of like a lot of you guys don't realize that there were like the course from Charles Atlas and everything. They all had a compressed course on karate and stuff, enclosed with most of them. That was included in the Charles Atlas, the Joe Weider course. They all had built-in, karate or jiu-jitsu. And then again, there was one in Johnson Smith that consisted of about 10, 11 booklets. And it was like, back then it was like $18. And it was an entire course in jiu-jitsu as well. So they were very popular in the 70s.
Yep. They seem to take advantage of that 70s fear of walking the streets thing that was going on back then.
Or suckers.
So what was the reason that martial arts became so big in like the late 60s and especially in the 70s?
I got 2 words. Maybe Jason would agree.
Start with B and L.
That's what I was thinking too.
No,
you know what? I'm a huge fan of Bruce Lee. I mean, that guy was unbelievable, and he died way too young. I mean, wow. His last movie was what was that? The Faces of Death. I believe it was the Faces of.
No, I think wasn't it the one right after Into the Dragon?
Yeah, he died halfway through this, so they had to quit production, and then that was the one with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and then through different types of clever shooting with the editing and so forth, they did finish the movie. And that was such a cool movie. Yeah, you know what? I've always
Game
been
of
a
Death.
big fan.
Game of Death.
Game of Death.
That's it. Game.
You know, one thing I'm going to put in about that is the same thing as Chuck, and we both the same exact age. In fact, I like to say Chuck is older than me by a few months.
Yeah.
But the point I'm trying to say is that in 1970, all you talked about, all you saw on television on Sundays were Bruce Lee movies.
Ooh.
And Chuck Norris. And then Chuck Norris was also a big head where he had, I think it was Good Men Wear Plates or.
Yeah. Good Men Wear Black. That came
Wear
out
Black.
78, 79.
Right. Yeah. And they were big and everybody. And then, of course, I said proceeded, I believe, what's his name, was also there. Van Damme and all, but I mean, Van Damme came in the 80s and stuff. But
and Steven Seagal later on too came out.
So was Bruce Lee the reason that all these martial arts pamphlets started coming out? Because
I don't know. Jason would know better than me, but I think that is something.
I think it was more of a perfect storm. You had the Kung Fu movies came in the late 60s and the 70s. And then you had Bruce Lee that fired it right into the popular consciousness. And then you had the Kung Fu TV series in 1972 that also fired it up. And then you had the violence in the streets thing going on. Well, and apparently a lot of bullying back in those days.
Yeah, every school had a bully, that's for sure. But one thing I wanted to tell you, though, is I think one that also helped propel the, and which I had spoken to Jason about it yesterday, was Count Dante. He had the most ads, and he started that deadliest man alive type of thing. So I think everybody followed, because if you look at the older ads, mostly the really older ads are not as violent as Count Dante's. And then Count Dante comes in the scene, and everything you see is like Kondo. There was another one called, which is the one you said you took, Chuck?
Chinese Kempo.
There was another called Ketsugo.
Yeah, right.
Ketsugo. I never heard of that, but there was all sorts of names coming out in comic books. Jason, are you familiar with Ketsugo?
Yeah, I've got that book right over there. That one came out in the 60s. That one was an earlier one. I think it branched off of judo and jiu-jitsu mostly.
You know, the thing that was cool about Bruce Lee, I mean, he was so knowledgeable and everything. He came out with his own style of fighting. It was called the Way of the Intercepting Fist. It was Jeet Kune Do, and his book is pretty cool. Quite a few times. It was a tale of Jeet Kune Do. It was, he had a philosophy in life, and he was something. He was really amazing.
Yeah, he picked pieces from wherever it seemed like it was a good fit and put them together. It was
exactly.
One thing I'm going to tell you guys, which I found out recently, which I was really amazed about, is growing up, of course, everybody wanted karate. For some reason, karate sounded better than Kung Fu. And
yeah.
I think it overpowered Kung Fu over a time where people was like, hey, I don't want to take Kung Fu. I want to take karate. So I got to tell you something, though. With all the stuff that I've seen, and there was my friend went to a particular school for Kung Fu back in 81, I guess, 82. And the guy was in front of a Black Belt magazine cover. He was a champion and all that stuff. That I got my son when he was little into Taekwondo. And obviously I paid for like the whole year. And guess what? The kid shows up for like a month or two, and then I lose the money. I couldn't get him.
That's a mistake, paying for a whole year.
Well, yeah, I found out the hard way, and then I'm never going to pay for any of my kids. But
that's the way they like to do it. That's the standard.
But he did when he was, on his own. He joined the class about 7-8 years ago, and it was a Gracie. Now, I had heard a lot about jiu-jitsu from the Gracies. They're from Brazil, right? Brazilian jiu-jitsu.
Yep.
And they were this thing. There's two twin brothers or something. They're called the Meow Brothers, like meow from a cat. And I thought it was kind of funny the way you call it Meow Brothers, And they apparently, I don't know how it was, but there's a Gracie studio that's not too far from my house. It was started by one of them or something like that. And my son started attending there about 8 years ago.
Wow.
And he went as far where I think he's like about 6 or 8 months away from the black belt in jiu-jitsu, but he started opening my eyes. And I remember reading in the Johnson Smith ad where it said that jiu-jitsu was like the best of all of them together. Mm-hmm. And I was like, whatever, But I actually saw competitions on television where you have the Gracies, especially I think one of the sons, because the original Gracies, I think he passed away. I'm not sure, but
twice or
the thing is that it's crazy. He goes against the one son that's very famous. He goes against a Kung Fu master, against a karate master, and he comes out winning all of them. And I was really shocked. I was like, wow. So it really proved, I think, that jiu-jitsu in a sense is really more like a fighting thing, and the other ones are mostly show. And of course, back in the 70s, it led for a lot of big mouths that were able to, take people like me and Chuck and just steal our money, thinking and everything they sold, even in Honor House, used to sell pocket gym, will slap muscles on your chest, and it was a rubber you pulled between your arms.
Yeah, my brother was 7 years old than me, and he had ordered a couple of those. Yeah, it was basically 2 pieces of thick dowel rod with an elastic tied between it.
And remember, you guys remember, or Chuck, do you remember the one that was a bar, a big giant spring in the middle, and you're supposed to bend it in half?
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Well, one of those bars, my father-in-law is kind of crazy. The rubber section, it goes because there's like a bike handle on it.
Yeah.
And it went off, and it almost broke his jaw. That thing snapped back, and the bull worker. The bull worker was another famous thing that will build your muscles, and everything was, I guess, everything went around the fact that it would make you stronger, will make you better, and they always used to say, become the envy of your friends, and the admiration of the girls.
Exactly.
And that's what I think they sold it the best.
Oh yeah, and you know what? We were all scrawny kids, so that played into it. You know what I mean? I was such a thin kid. I was average height, average weight, barely average. So we all fit into that category.
You look like Karate Kid.
Are you the one that they used in the Charles Atlas ad?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. You know what? Yeah, Cheri's right. I kind of did look like Ralph Macchio a little bit, huh? When I was
when you were younger.
Yeah,
like Karate Kid.
Looked like the Karate Kid a little bit. I'll have to post a picture. I think I got one over. It's pretty funny. Yeah.
Then you blossomed.
But I don't think we lost the liking for martial arts, because even in the 80s with Steven Seagal and it still continued to this day. I think it's not as much as it was in the early 70s.
No.
Which was, I guess, Bruce Lee, because I remember in my school, everybody wanted to be Bruce Lee.
Oh, man.
And so, Jace, I tell you actually picked a good trade. It's a lot of people still like that. I mean, Joe's so quiet about it, but Joe is the only one I know that comes out with some weird booklets we never even heard of.
Well, I still think that even in the 80s, that martial arts was huge, but it was bigger in a different demographic, and I think it switched from in the 60s and 70s. I think it was geared more towards like an older crowd, the crowd that was going out at night or walking around the streets or whatever, that would have been in those situations. Whereas the 80s, it started being geared a little bit more towards kids and kind of like that younger generation. I mean, you had some really cheesy martial arts stuff with Jean-Claude Van Damme. You had Bloodsport. The Karate Kid was, absolutely huge, which was geared towards kids and all that. And you had some other ones like Big Trouble in Little China that were very comedic. The Last Dragon, that was kind of comedic, and tons of other ones, that had little kids as being ninjas or were very cheesy, that were geared towards a younger audience, and even into the teens and all that. And then what was really weird is that you look at the explosion of cartoons during the 80s, and there was tons of different animated cartoons that were coming out basically to sell toys and all that. But Saturday morning cartoons, and one of the most popular series that was out in the 80s was G.I. Joe.
Oh, yeah.
And when you look at G.I. Joe, why was G.I. Joe so popular? Well, it was military stuff. It was cool and all that. But their most popular figures in that was Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, which were they were ninjas.
Mm-hmm. And so was Samurai Jack.
Who was that?
That was
Samurai Jack.
You got to see that series, Joe. That was a great series.
Who was Sam? Was that in the 80s?
No,
Yes.
2000, I think, or
Was it?
1990s or 2000. But
Oh, really? Wow.
it is an excellent
Oh, was that the
series.
one on Cartoon Network?
Yes.
Yes, I did see that one. Yeah.
Yes, that was very big. I thought you were going to mention him. I was kind of like, I had to get it out.
Well, I'm building up to it. So you had the in the 80s you had Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow, and then a few other ninjas like Jinx that were in the 80s. But then towards the end of the 80s and into the early 90s, especially with G.I. Joe, ninjas were very big. So they had the whole line of ninjas. Everything was ninja this, ninja that. Everybody was a ninja.
Yeah, and the turtles. Don't forget the
Yeah,
turtles.
the turtles.
Yeah, you had the Ninja Turtles, which all that continued selling great into the 90s. And then it seems like kind of like mid and late 90s, it was kind of still, and then, picked up a little bit in the early 2000s. You kind of see it that way, as well, Jason? Because it seems like the mid and late 90s, it kind of died out a little bit.
Yeah, there's definitely up. I think there was more extreme sports than martial arts going on in that period.
Well,
yeah, the skateboarding, and you had all that stuff at that time. But yeah, it seems like, ninjas were always big. And then I do remember that Samurai Jack now that was on
Cartoon Network, yeah.
Cartoon Network, yeah. I think that was early 2000s. But it, even from say 2000 to today, it doesn't seem like that area is as big as it was, especially during the 60s through, the early 90s.
Joe, you're saying something that really made a lot of sense. And for a man that knows very little about martial arts, and it's not it's some type of hidden ninja that doesn't tell us about it, you know more than all of us here. But anyway, you did make a lot of sense in what you said. But Joe, I think what you hit it on the nose is the early 70s and stuff. What did somebody's typing away there?
Oh yeah, just working on the side here.
No, I was gonna say one of the things I want to tell Joe, which is true. I think they built in the early 70s because of the fear in the area and stuff that people had, and the reason is that even the guy who invented the X-ray glasses, Karel van Brood, on fear sold that Kali Yuga. That, remember that?
Oh, the Cayuga, yes.
The Cayugas. That was like that bar that it shows like hitting somebody, knocking them out. So yeah, you're right, Joe.
Do you have one of those, Eddie? Jeez.
And I think too during the 80s is that you had a lot of these action stars that were martial arts based, and they seemed larger than life. I mean, you had Jackie Chan, that blew up. You had Steven Seagal, Michael Dudikoff. I think that's how you say it, Dudikoff or something like that.
Oh, Dudikoff, yeah.
Yeah, Dudikoff.
American
Ninja. You had Ralph Macchio, Pat Morita, that were, with the Karate Kid that was bigger than life. Jean-Claude Van Damme. You had Chuck Norris. So you had all these, guys that were larger than life action stars and doing martial arts. And of course, kids wanted to be like them. And I think that they really propelled that genre of movies, and just like everything, it goes in cycles, and you put so much of it out. After a while, people are going to get worn out and be like, what's next on the zeitgeist? Let's this is getting kind of old. But I kind of think that's a reason too, is why it died down in the 90s, is because through the 80s and the early 90s, it was just
overload.
Yeah, it was everywhere.
I think, Joe, what really helped, and Jason, is also the wrestling popularity of the 80s.
Oh, that's true.
Because wrestling propelled people into that, and then that's when mixed martial arts and stuff started taking over the scene. But I think the wrestling had a lot to do with it as well.
Well, when did UFC hit the scene? Was that in the mid 90s, late 90s?
Would have been around 93, 92, I think. Yeah.
So, I'm wondering if that was, kind of like the death of the ninja or the martial arts, because that was a whole, this was kind of brand new, especially for a lot of people in the Western world, where we didn't really see this type of stuff, because we were, like you guys just said, we were so used to WWF in the 80s, and even as kids, I mean, we knew it was, kind of fake and all that, but we still loved it, and we liked watching. Now you have this UFC that's coming out, and you have these guys that are just out there demolishing, and you could see, their body transformation from getting hit and
see the teeth flying. Yep.
So I think that the realness of this kind of led to the destruction of the whole ninja thing and all that. But then at the same time, WWF, they were going in their own direction, and they were, the whole Attitude Era was getting. So you had the WWF that was popular, and now you had this new UFC that was hitting the scene that was just exploding, and it's still, huge to this day. Whereas you look at something like WWF, and it's kind of taking more of a backseat to it.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? We had something here back in the late 60s, the early 70s out here in Pittsburgh. It was just called Studio Wrestling, and it was hosted by Bill. He was the guy that hosted Chiller Theater out here in Pittsburgh for like 23 years. And it was on every Friday night. And you know what? Bruno Sammartino was a Pittsburgh guy, and he was on there. Jumping Johnny DeFazio, you know what? He was on there. There was a bunch of local Pittsburgh guys that were all on there. popular. I think it went to the tri-state area, so it probably went out to where you were, Joe. And
what was it called again?
Just Studio Wrestling, and that was about 1968 to about maybe 73.
Well, that's a little bit before my time.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. You weren't even...
older?
Yeah, a little bit before my time.
You're not saying Joe is older than he really is.
Yeah,
yeah, a little bit before my parents coming together time too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, you know what? Google it. It was a phenomenon. I mean, it was really. There was a place here in McKeesport, Pennsylvania, which I've done shows in the building. It's called the Palisades. And so that's where they had the big wrestling ring put up. And oh man, my grandmother was like 90 years old. She was, kill him. It was funny. Oh, it was hilarious.
Joe, you mentioned UFC starting in '93. Was it more like 2003?
No, there was UFC 1 back in.
Yeah, it was definitely in the. I'll look it up right now.
93 maybe.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know.
93, yeah, 1993.
Yeah, because I remember first hearing about it in the late or I think maybe mid or late 90s.
Me too. I never heard of it before then. It must have been very low. It's kind of the same thing. A lot of people don't realize WWF back in 1970 was played over the freaking Spanish station. Like when it came out at 12 midnight, not at 12, but like at 10 o'clock at night, or in the Spanish station, you couldn't see WWF, and it was called. Was it WWF before? And then it became
WWF.
Right.
Yeah, in the 80s and 90s.
Mm-hmm. And then it became WCW, and then there was also another group, which was WC. Before I think it became something where the Venerics used to fight. It was
you had the WWF and WCW that were kind of were competition, and then WWF ended up buying out WCW, and then because of trademark violations with the what was it, the World Wildlife Federation? Yeah, they had to change it to what is it called now?
WWE.
Yeah, WWE, World Wrestling Entertainment, something like that, I believe.
Which is kind of funny because WWF was probably older than Wild. I mean, I'm very surprised. I never heard that joke, but I'm very shocked that they were able to. But one thing I'm going to say to you, though, the WCW, that's where Dusty Rhodes and a lot of those people came from, that part. And the Venerics, there was the father and I think 4 sons, and all the sons died and the father's still alive, which is wild.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's. I believe you're right, Joe. 100% on that, man.
Yeah, I like some of the old time guys. I just read an article the other day about the French Angel. I forget his name exactly, but he was the guy that Shrek was supposedly patterned after, and he was pretty cool. Like he had that disease where your jaw grows real big and your hands and feet grow real large. He was called the French Angel. 50s. If you search him.
What's it called? The French Angel.
Yeah, he was really cool looking. You know what? I mean, he was only like 5'9" and stuff, but his hands and his jaw was real big. I forget the name of the disease, but those the extremities grew really large, and he looked really cool. I thought he was pretty.
He almost kind of has like he looks like a shorter version of Rondo Hatton.
Yeah, right. And like they say that's I mean like Disney never stated it outwardly, but supposedly that's who they patterned after Shrek, the character.
Yeah, I could, man, now that you say it, I could definitely see that. Yeah.
But that was a tough.
I mean, yeah, that's like a spitting image. You put him next to Shrek, and
is that a tough looking guy or what? I mean, like imagine him coming after you. I'd go, whoa.
Yeah, I'm not gonna mess with him, but yeah, he looks. Let's see, I'm gonna look him up and see what he.
He's a cool guy.
So he was born in 1903 in Russia, and he died in 1954 in Chicago, Illinois. So his wrestling ring names were the French Angel and the World's Ugliest Man.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
So he was. I think this is taking a little liberties here because he was built at 5'9", and that's I don't know. He looked a little small.
Cheri has the name of that disease. What's it called, Cheri?
Joe, at that time, people.
Acromegaly.
Acromegaly.
Yeah, I think didn't
who's that?
Lincoln.
President
Lincoln
they said President Lincoln even had a tat of that. Somehow his features were starting to get extended. That's the rumor anyway.
Yeah,
so
what you're saying there, remember, Joe, back in those days, people 5'9" was pretty tall.
Yeah, you know what? Back 60, 70 years ago, that was fairly tall. Yeah, he was only 50 when he died. Cheri pulled up his profile.
And one
Cheri, what was the name of that disease?
Cro-Magnon.
Acromegaly.
Acromegaly.
Okay,
Acromegaly.
yeah, that's the same disease in that Rondo Hatton had as well.
Okay.
That was
And the guy that played the Canamite, Richard Kiel, he had that also, and he played Moonraker in the
Jaws. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and Jaws. Yeah.
Yep.
I met Richard Kiel, and that poor guy, man, he was like bound to a wheelchair. He was so big. I'm actually in one of the YouTube videos my friend took, but I mean, he's not that great at taking film, as you can see. But he's got his entire hand in my face. He covers my head and face with his arm.
Yeah, that was a huge man. It was a huge man.
A lot of people used to confuse him for Ted Cassidy, who played Lurch. And, believe it or not, Lurch used to get mad at that. He didn't want to be compared to that guy. And one time, I think he made a comment like, "I'm not an idiot" or something.
Yeah. Well, believe it or not, I was reading about the French Angel. He was a lawyer. He passed his bar exam and everything. He was not a stupid man. This man was very, very intelligent.
I tell you what, I'm looking. There's a lot of people, a lot of famous people that we didn't even think of that had that disease. Andre the Giant.
Andre the Giant. That's correct.
The Big Show, who's I think he's still currently professional wrestling. You said Ted Cassidy, Rondo Hatton. The Great Khali, he was a Indian professional wrestler. He did some time in the WWF as well.
Right.
You had Richard Kiel, like you guys discussed as well. Tony Robbins, the motivational speaker.
Yeah, his forehead does look like it overhangs a little. Yeah, I know.
So that's crazy. That there's a lot of these famous people that have it. You would think that they would, come out and talk about it more, and because I'm sure there's, some kids out there or younger people that are suffering from it, and might be having a hard time with it. But man, you got some of these stars that are now that it'd be great if they were talking about it, and how many famous people had great careers and great lives. That's right. Because of, of this, I don't know if you would call it a disease or, I'm sure to some of them, it was a blessing because it, propelled their careers and their fame and everything. And no one ever looked down on those guys, Rondo Hatton, he's, well remembered. Ted Cassidy, I mean, all these guys, all these wrestlers, Andre the Giant, so yeah, that's really cool to know that all these people had that.
It is, Joe. Joe, I think the name derives from like the Cro-Magnon, because they get features that are different. But when you say, that's why Anthony Hopkins, Joe, especially when you mention him, his voice is so rough. Like when he's trying to talk, he's like, hey, you know what I'm saying? And I think it's because of that. You're right. I never knew he had that.
Yeah, and Anthony Robbins, I think, is there.
Anthony Robbins. I'm sorry, that's the one.
Tony Robbins. Right.
No. I'm saying Anthony Robbins. Actually, when you guys mention all those famous people, when I first started my first job, I actually got to meet the son of Antonino Rocca. That was the Italian wrestler from the and stuff. And I got to meet his son, and his son actually gave me a signed poster of him that I have somewhere.
Wow, that's cool. I tell you what, there was a professional wrestler here in Pittsburgh. It was a female. I'm not going to say her name because I don't want to get involved. I don't want to, you mentioned my name, but anyway, she hired me for a magic show, I guess about 20 years ago. And you know what, so for the people that think that wrestling is fake, I mean, there is a real side to it. I mean, she could hardly walk. She was literally like 30 years old. She said by getting slammed on that wrestling ring, she said her back is in such bad shape that her husband would have to pull on her legs every morning to get her out of bed. Yeah, I mean that's what bad pain. So she quit. She said I had to get out of it. And I did check her name up. I mean, so they slam them down. Yeah, when they do that slamming, I mean, sure, that's that's the real part, man.
Yeah. Well, when we say it's fake and all that, I guess that maybe the proper term would be scripted. We definitely know it's scripted, but man, you see some of the poundings, and there's been wrestlers that have been hurt and actually killed in the ring over the decades. So it's tough. I couldn't imagine putting your body through that like 350 days a year.
Yeah, broken noses. Their noses are all broken. They got cauliflower ears. I mean, that's a rough.
one thing you guys don't also realize, a lot of times you get famous people that you won't even think what they're doing. A guy came one time by my job to deliver pizza. Now, the guy was a Hispanic guy, I think Dominican, but I don't know how the conversation came around. And he said, I was actually a professional boxer. And we're getting some feedback really bad. Can you hear it?
No.
No, Joe, Chuck or Joe, anybody?
No, I don't hear anything. How about you, Joe?
No.
Okay, no, I'm hearing. But anyway, the point is that the guy comes in, and when he was saying he was a boxer and he had fought Foreman and all that, I forgot his name right now. I got to look him up, but I know that one of my coworkers says, "And what are you doing delivering pizza?" The guy looked at him. I'm like, dude, I looked up the guy. He had fought Foreman. I go, dude, you want this guy to take you outside and let you have it? You know?
Yeah, he'll beat the crap out of you.
But he said that, apparently the divorce he was in, he lost over $3 million in the divorce process.
There you go.
So you get people that are famous in the street and you never even know about it, which is very interesting.
Yeah. Be careful who you marry.
That's true.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
She was worse than for George Foreman on him.
Yeah.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
How old are you, Jason? I didn't get. What's your age?
51.
Oh, okay.
He's a youngin'.
That's not too bad.
Yep.
Okay, so Joe would be the youngest then. 40,
Yeah, he's the baby.
42.
I am the baby of it.
Don't
Yep.
kid yourself. Come on. We all know Joe is older than he's talking.
I am the baby of it.
I'm the senior.
I am only 32 years old.
Yeah.
What's the line? I got underwear older than that.
Yeah.
You know what? The older I get, I got neckties that are older than my kids. No kidding.
Wait.
Yep.
Guys,
older than you.
1 second. Joe said 32. He's 42.
42.
32.
You just took away 10 years from his age. Okay, he's a master ninja.
I'm going by how I look. How about
Oh,
that?
you look.
Right.
If we went by that, I'd be 75 then, I guess.
Yeah, I'd be that old if we went for how my body feels. And maybe
There you go.
70s.
I feel 80.
She said she feels 80.
My God.
That's so funny. You guys definitely don't look that. But Joe says, I got a question for you. You showed a manual. Do you have that manual of karate that when you were young? Because you showed.
Oh, your uncle's manual. What's it?
Yeah, you know what? There's I have all those manuals and everything, but it was kind of like it's a weird story, and I think we discussed it last time about the guy from the martial arts place that put out the book about it and all that. Well, he put out all these manuals and everything in the early 80s and all that, and they were really only meant for students of that school and everything. That's why I didn't put out too much of them, because I do have some booklets and pamphlets and all that and VHS, but it was very strictly at the time, and I haven't talked to him since. I don't know if he's let up on that, so that's why I didn't want to put out too much, because it was very strictly for just the students of that craft, and that's why it was passed from my uncle to me, because I did attend there at the time. But yeah, I can't put out too much without kind of like his permission to do so, and I haven't talked to him in quite a while.
Joe, all the evidence is showing that you are the master ninja. You don't want to confess.
Yeah,
I'm clean, Joe.
I wish. Then I'd be doing movies, and I'd be the next Chuck Norris.
Well, Chuck Norris is still doing commercials.
Yeah, and it is 70s.
Yeah, he looks good for his age. And his brother was heavily into martial arts, if I'm not mistaken.
I used to love him in Texas Ranger, man. I said, I know how he's going to dispatch that bad guy. Roundhouse kick.
Yeah,
every time.
Nice demeanor when he talks and stuff. He seems like such a nice man. You know what I mean? And he played these tough roles, but I don't know. It's just the way.
He was a huge action star in the 80s. All those, old Vietnam. He was this disgruntled Vietnam vet, so he had to go back and get POWs, or you seen him as a disgruntled detective that took the law in his own hands. He was always playing some huge action starring role. You had Stallone, all those guys, man. They were huge.
Oh yeah, we just watched a Liam Neeson movie the other day. And I told
Commuter.
it was called The Commuter. It was really good because you know what? It kind of turns me off because he's always beating the crap out of somebody. It's like, oh
Oh,
man.
you gotta
But
enjoy that.
this turned out pretty good. He didn't really, he did it once maybe,
No, he did a few little
maybe
bit,
2
yeah.
times,
Just
but it was
fun.
really, it had a nice story to it. I can't stand those movies where I'll find you, I'll kill you.
I
You know?
love
Yeah.
those somebody gets taken.
I just don't like it. It's just too much.
You know, it's funny because you look at like the action stars of like the 80s and the action stars of today, and they're completely different. You know, the 80s, they were real muscular and gruff, and they were like a man's man.
Yeah,
And then today they're very like refined and, you know, skinny, maybe a little bit of muscle on them.
yeah,
but, you
difference,
know,
Wow.
big difference.
He's like
You
how
know-
tall?
Yeah,
Liam
I
Neeson?
think Liam Neeson's 6'4",
He's
6'5", he's tall.
Is
Isn't
he
he?
really?
String bean.
Yeah.
I thought he was shorter.
No, look him up. I believe he's 6'4", if I'm not
You know,
mistaken.
let me tell you something, Chuck. When it came to Taken and stuff, the first movie was phenomenal.
Mhm.
I mean, I loved it to death. But then the other ones, it's true what you're saying. They kind of overdo the same thing over and over.
Yeah, they overdo the same scenario. It's like that's enough, you know.
That's like Jason. What was it? Jason Bourne.
Oh
You know,
yes.
the first good and stuff, and then when it
Yeah.
got to like the fifth one, it's that he wasn't even in it.
Yeah.
You're like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, you run out of Taken. Like Cheri said, what are they going to take his dog? You know, I mean, come on.
They took my hot dog.
Yeah, I will find
them.
you. I will kill you.
There was
Yeah,
a series
but
on
the-
Amazon I watched recently with the Reacher series that was actually really good. I was surprised how good it was. They
Which
did a
one?
good
What
job.
was it called?
Reacher. It was
Oh, you know what? Someone told me about that. I have yet to watch it. I heard it was good too. And I tell you what else was good on Amazon was that Navy SEAL show with Chris Pratt.
oh, I haven't seen that.
I can't remember what it's called, but that was really good. And then there's a another one on there that is it's with the guy that was in The Office that played Jim, and it's
Oh, Barry.
no what the heck? They're on season 3, and it was based off of Tom Clancy books. Well, what the heck was it called? What's his main protagonist? Tom Clancy's in all his books. Why is it? It's
Jack
like
Ryan?
escaping it.
Yeah.
Jack Ryan, yeah.
Oh, Jack Ryan.
So they're on season 3 of Jack Ryan, and this is like a he just started in his career, so they're on I think season 3, but these are like the first few years of his career, and it's really good. The guy that I can't remember his name, the guy that plays Jim on The Office is the main guy. Is
I
Jack
can't remember
Ryan.
his name either. Joe.
Oh, John Krasinski.
Yeah, John Krasinski.
That's
That's it. Yeah.
Hey, Joe, did you? I don't know if you mentioned. We talked a lot. Did anybody ever watch The Blacklist?
No, but I heard Eddie loves that show. Don't you, Eddie?
I heard Eddie hates that show.
I
think he's obsessed with it.
I watched the season like 3 times each season already.
Isn't it?
Wow.
Wow.
The thing that it's already on its 10th season starting, but I'm surprised NBC is starting at the end of January, and yet they did 22 shows. It doesn't make
Wow.
Hey, have you guys?
I never watched it.
Who's
You
in
got
that,
to.
Eddie?
That's James Spader, right?
That's correct. It's,
Oh,
it's
I
the
like
best
James
show.
Spader. Yeah, I like him.
If
Have you
watch-
guys heard of this series on Amazon Prime? And a buddy of mine just told me about it last night, and I watched the first episode. I thought it was an interesting idea. But it's called It's called Hunters on Amazon.
No, I've never seen it.
Joe, I did see a little bit, but I haven't seen the show. How is
Yeah, I
it?
guess they just started season 2, but it's a I guess it's kind of like a conspiracy drama where it takes place in the 70s, but after World War II, a lot of Nazis infiltrated the U.S. government and high areas of the United States in politics and law enforcement. So there's like this group of like, I guess, I don't know if they're or if they're some Jewish and Americans, but they're hunters. So they're going after and they're trying to locate these Nazis and kill them. But then on the same time, there's a Nazi faction of hunters that are going around and hunting these hunters.
No.
And the first episode was, I tell you what, you watch it and just the first, I don't know, 3 minutes of it, like my mouth was like hitting the floor. I'm like, holy crap. It was weird. And it's good. It's a very good show, but it's kind of one of those things that makes you think, especially if you know the ins and outs of Project Paperclip and all that, and how I was telling the guy that introduced me to it last night, he wasn't aware of Project Paperclip.
Oh yeah.
So I was telling him how this stuff like that actually happened. We took top level scientists and we brought them over here, and they started our NASA, and a lot of them ventured off into politics and all that. So it's
oh yeah, we would have never never gotten to the moon if it wasn't for the German scientists.
Right.
Definitely.
I said, so you don't know how far they might have actually infiltrated politics. I said, so that's like an interesting concept for the show. So I'm on episode 2, and I think I'm gonna keep watching it because it's really good.
That sounds pretty cool. You know what? I'm still waiting to come out. Squid Games too. I don't know if any of you.
Oh man, I can't wait for Squid Games too.
Oh, you know what? My son Nick told us about Squid Games about a year ago, and I said I don't like the sound of that. I said I don't know if I like this, and Cheri and I watched the first episode.
We were hooked.
Yeah, we were hooked. We binge watched it. That was one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Wow.
Yeah, I thought that was a very interesting and new concept. I kind of I think halfway through the show, or halfway through the series, I kind of figured out who was the main guy.
Yeah, I was suspicious too, Joe.
Chuck was, yeah, Chuck knew.
Yeah, I was very suspicious.
But I kind of like the premise of the whole show, and second series is going to be really cool to see.
You know what? So if there's anybody out there in podcast land that did not watch Squid Games, you have to watch it. Give it a try. It's really, really good. You won't be. It'll blow your mind. It really will.
Yeah, I wonder, do they have I'm going to look it up now. I don't know if they ever have a release date, if they put out a release date.
Yeah, check it out. I can't wait.
I don't think it's out yet, Joe. I think it's coming soon, I think.
Yeah, I don't think it's out yet, but I don't know if they put a release
coming soon
date
to a theater near you.
There is a rumor. But one thing I'm going to tell you guys, and with everything you're saying, it's kind of like you got to guess. It's like a detective. But if you watch like the first 3 or 4 shows of The Blacklist, you'll be stuck for life.
Right.
You won't be able to put it down.
So that's been on for what you said, 10 seasons now? I know it's been a while.
Surprising. They thought it was going to be over after 4, and it keeps adding on and on and on.
Wow.
It's starting its 10th season, I think January 28th.
Wow.
So they're saying it should be completed and broadcast by 2024. That's the only information on it.
In production.
Hey Eddie, does your wife like Blacklist?
I made her watch it. I tied her to the sofa.
Nobody likes Blacklist.
Oh, really?
No. She loved it. The thing is, I got my son's father-in-law involved.
Oh wow.
I got a lot of people, and then the problem with it that it was kind of crazy is that they would call me constantly to see what happened or what do I think, because the thing with the Blacklist is that it's kind of like a detective thing throughout the whole thing.
Okay.
James Spader plays the best part of his life, I think, in that show. And one of the things about the Blacklist is it's everybody. I don't know if you guys. The idea of the show is that the most wanted FBI person in the world goes to the FBI. He turns himself in, and he says that he's going to answer to a person by the name of Elizabeth King, who was a brand new profile that was just hired by the FBI like a week before. And he says that he's going to turn over all the black people that make the Blacklist that don't even make the most wanted list of how bad they are. So the whole show is like, who is he really? Why does he know so much? And this guy, which is James Spader as Raymond Reddington, he basically controls the FBI. He even controls the United States presidency. It's a phenomenal show. I mean, you really can get into it. It got ups and it's great.
I might like that. I'll give it a try.
If like I said, just watch the first one, and you're going to be the second and third episodes. They're okay. When you watch after the third or fourth, you just can't put it down.
Okay, so it gets better then. It gets on a roll.
It's kind of like there's a book they put for kids a couple of years ago. I mentioned it before. That was called Something of Unfortunate Events. I think.
Oh, series of unfortunate events.
Yeah. What was the name?
That was neat.
A series of unfortunate events.
Lemony Pickett or something like that.
Snicket.
That's it. Lemony Snicket.
I took one of those books.
Yeah,
it was my I think it was my son's. I mean, years ago, and I started reading it's a kid's book, and I'm like, darn, I can't put this book down.
What page turners? Those are page turners. Yeah,
it is, man.
Yeah,
that writer's phenomenal. I actually read like 3 or 4 of them.
Yeah, Netflix did a great series on those books. with Neil Patrick Harris as Olaf, and he did a great job.
Yeah, I never saw the series, but that's but the same thing with the Blacklist. Now, Joe, you watched another series one time that you mentioned to us. Do you remember what it was?
Yeah, that kind of sums it up.
Well,
Thanks for giving me a good clue.
No,
you watched something once? What was it?
I watched something once. Yeah,
No,
it was good. I tell you what,
He always does
it
it. He
was
comes up
good.
with some crazy name, and then you Google it, it's something totally different.
no, it's
It was good. Yes, I did watch it once. It was good. Whatever
Well,
it was.
we were
Insert your own TV
idea.
show.
No, we were talking one time about Project Blue Book and how I think it didn't stand up to what it was, and it was not a good show. And you mentioned another one that during that talk, I forgot, but it was something like conspiracy theories or something like that. You don't, but anyway,
Maybe it was the one on Netflix. I think there's one on there called Unclassified or something.
Yes,
Ooh,
that's the one.
That's a good one. Oh my goodness, Joe!
That's
If you're
the one,
not
Joe.
familiar, it's UFO Files Declassified. I think it is.
Yeah, something like that on Netflix. I think that's the one I watched. I believe I'm on like the third episode or something like that, but it's good so far.
Those are they bring out cases I've never heard of. Wow.
Yeah, that's the one. I was the same way, Chuck. I'm like, I started watching. I'm like, yeah, they're gonna go through the same old tired cases you hear all the time. But
yeah, they're all
they
new.
brought out some stuff I never even heard of.
Yeah, and it goes on for several seasons. I just binge watched it when like every time Cheri went up to go to bed, I said, well, I'm gonna put this on, and I watched like 6 or 7 episodes. I fell asleep. The next day I watched 6 more. It's really, really good. Wow.
Is it all about UFOs?
All about UFOs. Yeah.
There's one, Joe, that I don't know if you watched, but there's a guy on, I think he's on either Tubi but it says like Unclassified Files. He's got glasses and he's got a rough face. He's some government guy. I forgot who he is. I got to bring the name up in the next show, but I saw one of his things. I think it's called Exposed. Unclassified something Exposed. I think it was Tubi that I saw it on, or Prime Video, one of the two. But I gotta tell you, man, it was like, damn, it left me thinking.
Tubi has a lot of great shows on it for free.
They really do. And this particular one mentioned where the Egyptians didn't really find the pyramid. I mean, build the pyramids. They kind of found them because they're supposed to be like some type of electrical. The whole thing is that the show itself was pretty good. I actually have to.
The pyramids were the original House of the Unusual.
Yeah, I think I've seen that.
You're not supposed to tell the world, man.
Yeah, they were like generators or something. They were originally built by another civilization thousands of years before the Egyptians. I think. Cool. I did see that.
Yeah. Well, hey guys, we're gonna wrap it up here. We got a couple minutes left, so we're gonna give a quick shout out to our sponsors and everybody out there listening. Always a huge thank you to everyone out there in podcast land that tunes into us every week, or if you're new and just turned in, listen to a few episodes, give us a chance. I think you'll have a lot of fun. We talk about a lot of different and cool stuff on here, stuff that we like to talk about and other guests like to talk about. And if you're interested in being a guest, get a hold of us. We have a website, houseoftheunusual.com. There's a forum site on there. It's absolutely free to join. You can post on there. And if you want to be a guest, get a hold of us or we'll get a hold of you. That's how we got in touch with Jason there. He was he joined the forum. He started posting there. And, he's been on the podcast a few times now talking about stuff that he likes and that we like and teaching us about some new stuff. And that's what this whole community is about, that we're building here and trying to build. Also, check us out on YouTube. Type in House of the Unusual. They'll pop up. Eddie and Chuck are always putting up some great videos. So like and subscribe to that. Also, whatever podcast that you are listening to us on, please subscribe to us. Give us a good review if you so choose to. And tune in every week. And guys, that's about all that I have for us today. I'm not going to go through all of our friends and all that. We've gone through that a lot. Maybe next week or something like that. But Chuck, Cheri, Eddie, Jason, do you guys have any last final words? We got about a minute left, so if everybody wants to scream out what their final words are.
Hey, that was a fun podcast. It was predominantly a kung fu night. I'm going to watch a Bruce Lee movie now. Thanks, Jason.
There you go.
Gets the appetite whetted.
And one thing I'm going to say, guys, I noticed Ski. I received something from Ski today. He's hiding somewhere. but it blew my mind, guys. I'm not going to mention about it now, but he's good.
I think I got the same thing that you're talking about, Eddie, that I was planning on mentioning it on the next podcast. So we'll definitely have to.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, we'll have to talk about that. I just opened mine up. I didn't get a chance to dig into it, but it's very cool. So everyone out there, stay tuned because we got a great surprise for you guys next podcast. And guys, everyone, thanks for joining us. Hope to see everybody next week, and have a good night, y'all.
All right,
God
good
bless
night.
everybody.
Thank
All right,
you.
bye.
God bless.
Bye-bye.